HIV is a disease that it doesn't really manifest itself when you're infected, so you could be infected without knowing it.
In the UK, between 25 to 33% of people who are living with HIV have no idea that they're HIV positive. We know that from Health Protection Agency statistics.
The thing with HIV is, and not a lot of people realise this, is the way that the symptoms that it presents are very similar to that of a bad cold or flu, and in fact in some people it doesn't even present any symptoms. So it can often be missed, and even by sort of general practitioners as well.
It's the first time ever in England that we've had a national testing week. So the week running up to World AIDS Day, we're asking as many people to consider having an HIV test as possible. So we've done lots of different targeted campaigns in the past, but we've never had a whole week which is dedicated to raising the profile of HIV testing and saying to people, consider a test, have a test, or pledge to test.
The reason it's so important for people to take a HIV test is it's more important for them to know their status rather than not knowing the status because of their long-term health implications.
Certainly, it's definitely better to know, know what your status is so that you have better control of your own life.
Unless you have had an HIV test that confirms that you're either negative or positive, you don't know that you cannot know your HIV status.
It is part of knowing you're healthy and planning forward, and also preventing the further spread of HIV and AIDS.
You're actually empowering yourself. You're taking responsibility, not just for yourself, but also the responsibility of not passing it on to other people.
The earlier HIV is detected, the better.
An early diagnosis will lead to better health care and a more favourable outcome.
The more it's left untreated, the more damage it does to the immune system, and then the more complications there will be further on in the treatment of the HIV.
The later somebody's diagnosed, the more damage there may have been to their immune system, and the more likely they might have to have other complications. So we very much want people to test early, test regularly if you're having unprotected sex after one negative result, but you cannot overstate the benefits of testing early for HIV.
I have come across, from when I used to work in the GUM clinic, people who were late diagnosed and they've had more opportunistic infections, more health issues, and their long-term outcome hasn't been as favourable as somebody who's been diagnosed early.
When you go late, it's really a problem, and only you have a lot of you are down, and a lot of medication will be given to you. You need counselling, but because of that illness, you'll not be able to cope well.
The benefits of early diagnosis is it can make a positive change to your life. Because before HIV testing, most people are negative about sexuality, that is intimacy, relationships, or even life. But after testing, one can make a change, whether positive or negative. It is a step whereby you start to make a change. We've seen it happening.
Over Manchester Pride 2012, we were out on the street talking to gay and bisexual men, or men who have sex with men, to sort of try and gauge why, if people were testing, and if they weren't, why they weren't testing.
The reluctance is still around. They sort of think we can never get life insurance, we can never get a mortgage, we've got to tell people. There's also that fear, what do you do with that information? And it's telling other people who are in their lives as well. They may be scared how people will react.
They thought, if I go for testing, that's the end of it all. I'm already dead.
I mean, I suppose there's the fear factor involved with HIV, but I think that's predominantly in a slightly older generation of people. I think within younger generations, certainly my generation, I was born in 1986, which was when the epidemic pretty much started, and whilst I've got very vague recollections of sort of government campaigns and whatnot during the 80s and early 90s. For the most part, my generation hasn't seen that, and a generation below me hasn't seen that. So there isn't that fear. And also, in terms of my generation's experience of HIV, for the most part, no one will have had friends that have died, whereas older gay men most likely or are more likely to have had friends affected by HIV and maybe passed away because of HIV before treatments improved. So I think there's a sort of lack of knowledge, and not through anyone's fault really, but a lack of knowledge and direct experience of HIV is one of the key factors.
With Africa, when HIV was first discovered, there were a lot of negative stereotypes and perceptions from the media. For example, adverts with skeletons depicting people dying, and it was all negative, and people shunned testing. And
They think if I have an HIV test, they'll tell me my results are positive and I'll die soon, but that's not the case.
People think it's not as bad as it is. And also, again, with the medication out there, people think, right, okay, I can just pop a pill and everything will be fine, and it doesn't